I think you need to understand where value is created in your business. Where an owner sees value in their business is different to where a buyer sees value in their business. I don't believe you should be changing your business and what's made you successful for the benefit of a sale, because by doing that, you potentially undermine what's made you successful to start with. Our view is you're better off selling a business that's got a long-term smooth growth trajectory than selling something that's, kind of been on a hockey stick growth, because it might just fall off a cliff tomorrow.
Hi, this is Andre from Verity Consulting. Thank you for clicking on the link to watch this video to our Uncommon Lunch number 6. It's a video that's filmed in 3 parts, and in this 3rd part, you'll be able to see me ask the panelists about tips and tricks and initiatives and things that you can put into your business to make it more of a success. I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy watching.
So Byron, we'll stick with you for this one. What should companies do right now, and what advice would you give, I guess, to get it right? What are some of the critical things to keep in mind at the moment?
Yeah, the number one thing is get clear, right? The number of clients we work with, they've got systems and processes, and they've got agendas, and they've got 5-year plans. And I sit their executive leadership team and say, right, I'm going to go around the room here and ask everybody, what are you doing? And if I sit 8 people down in a room and say, what are you doing? I get 8 different answers normally, right? Get clear, like, what are you doing? We are going to build Australia's most sustainable, car media business. We're going to build Brisbane's best, SME recruitment firm as measured. Like, let's get clear. And so it's really about digging under it and working out, what the hell are you doing? Like, really, what are you doing?
What are you seeing, Chris? Well, from your perspective, what sort of advice are you giving people at the moment?
I think you need to understand where value is created in your business. And it's a bit of a loaded question, me saying that, because where an owner sees value in their business is different to where a buyer sees value in their business. So it's one of the reasons why we work on both buy side and sell side. So just for that distinction, buy side is where we help people acquire well. So if you're acquiring, and sell side is where we help you sell and create liquidity from your ownership of your business. So, but we spend almost equal time on both sides of transactions. So, and that's intentional, because by having the mindset as a buyer means when we're talking to our clients who are looking at selling, we do this kind of this initial review of the business and say, well, here's how a buyer's going to think about it. Here's how they're going to think about valuation. Here's how they're going to think about risk. And valuation in its simplest form is really just a combination of what's your future cash flows and what's the risk of generating those future cash flows or not generating them. So, valuation isn't homogenous. As much as the guy next door in your industry sold his business for $100 million, it doesn't necessarily mean your business is worth $100 million. The fact that you sell something, a service, a product, and some customers choose you over someone else means your business drivers and your business culture is probably different to them. So every business is different, so every valuation is different. Doesn't mean the end result number is different, but to a buyer, buyers buy businesses for a different reason. So understand how a buyer is going to think about your business.
So remove yourself from the picture and look at it through somebody else's or potential future buyer's lens, and then reverse engineer from there almost. Is that what we're saying?
You don't necessarily have to reverse engineer, because I don't believe you should be changing your business and what's made you successful for the benefit of a sale, because by doing that, you potentially undermine what's made you successful to start with. But I think you need to understand it. I can't tell you how many... selling a business is an emotional experience for a business owner. It is the most invasive process you have ever been through. Alborz, I'm not sure if your experience was the same, but like, people look at things and judge things, but most of the time they're consultants who are working for the buyer. So they have no fear in casting judgment on you and making you feel like an absolute idiot when you're sitting in a room with them, like they're the smart guy and you're not. I've got a joke with potential clients where a lot of advisors do act like we're the smartest people in the room. The reality is, if I was the smartest person in the room, I'd be banking Alborz's money and he'd be the one telling me how to do it. But it's the other way around. So we know what we do well. You know your business well. It's bringing those views together and working out how to maximize your value, not necessarily changing your business because an advisor who's never done what you've done before thinks that's a better way to make some money.
Well said. Can we give him a clap for that? I thought it was awesome. Really, really well said.
Thank you.
So, Alborz, you're way further ahead this time around than what you were in the same time period last time around. I know that because you wrote that down on LinkedIn. I read that somewhere, right? So what are some of the mistakes you see and some of the things you did that you see that people are doing right? Anything you can comment on that regard?
Yeah, look, I mean, for me, one thing that as a team we've done right this time is actually not to create a business to sell. I know that sounds weird to say in this forum, but towards the end of my last business, it was all about gearing it up for a listing or gearing it up for a sale. And like you said, it sucked the soul out of the business. It required a level of maturity, but it didn't need to go through what it went through to get to where it was, because that business doesn't exist anymore. That business was bought out and turned off within a year by its new owner, which is sort of amazing when you think about spending 60 plus million on something and then just turning it off one day. I mean, I did take 20 of their staff. That probably didn't help for my new business, but those are minor details, I suppose. But with the new business, honestly, for us, when we started it, there was an element of, let's build something amazing. Let's build something that'll last. Let's actually do what we love doing, like we used to at Car Advice, and then that'll itself be a reason for someone to come out there and look at it. And when Channel 7 was interested in investing in our business, and they put in 4 million last year, it was amazing to think that that was 18 months. That business was 18 months old, and to have this third largest media company after Nine to come in and invest in it. It was kind of a bit of I felt a bit bad about it. I got to be honest. Like, you sell 1 to 9 and then go and sleep with the enemy. But
you didn't really feel bad, did you?
Yeah,
Come on, be honest.
Yeah, it was because they saw the passion that we had for the business again. Like, we were doing it because we wanted to do it, not because we were like, we're going to build something and sell it to you. So it's awesome, man. Just do what you love. I know it sounds so cliche, but I've lost that in my life a couple of times doing the businesses that I do, and it's only when I go back to that I realize that's how you create something worthy to anyone.
Can I say there's value in playing the long game? I've always been a big believer in the long game, and the amount of times we see people building businesses to do the old school pump and dump, it's try and get it to its absolute peak in its performance and sell it at that absolute moment in time. That gives you no headroom if things don't work out. If you have to delay your process by 6 months, you're already on the downward curve. And there's nothing harder than selling a business on the downward curve. But also, buyers aren't stupid. Buyers buy businesses for a reason. That doesn't mean it always works out as they plan, but rarely do buyers spend lots of money, with the intention of pissing it away. So if they think you're at the peak and you think you're at the peak, the likelihood is they're not going to pay you peak pricing. So our view is you're better off selling a business that's got a long-term smooth growth trajectory than selling something that's kind of been on a hockey stick growth, because it might just fall off a cliff tomorrow. And that's the one thing that makes buyers most nervous. If I see a hockey stick from a business we're advising a client on buying, the hockey stick being the kind of exponential growth curve, the first thing that comes to my mind is skepticism. And our whole process will be designed around trying to unpack whether that's real, and it always plays to valuation. So if you play the long game, don't package it up with the intention to squeeze every inch out of it and sell it at that moment in time so it turns to shit the day after you sell it. Sell a legacy that you can be proud of, that's going to grow and be there, and that's going to get you the highest value.
No, I love it, man. That's fantastic advice. Which is, and in some ways, also different to what I hear a lot of the time, which is start your business with the end in mind of selling it and go backwards from there, right? It's quite the opposite to that. So, David, I had no surprise you had a question.
Thank you very much. I guess a question probably to all of you up there, but you spoke about finding the right staff or getting the right staff. It is not hard. It's almost impossible. And
good. I'm glad you went there.
and it's as an SME who's on a great growth path, it's a real challenge because you can write all the rules, you can hire fast or hire slow, fire fast, blah, 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 whatever you want to do in there. But the problem is when you got good staff, there's always somebody bigger than you who steals them away. And
Do you have a question? Sorry, or just checking.
Getting there. And we've heard of the cold sheet strategy for breakfast, all that's good. But what's the goal? How do you attract and retain those staff when you got somebody bigger always trying to poach them?
Yeah, look, everybody that left my last business to come over to the new business got equity in the business, and that equity was dished out over a 3-year period. So they're still here. They're still earning it. It's actually getting new talent that's been incredibly difficult. Trying to find new people. Like we've got a team of 5 developers, and it took me almost 14 months to find those 5 people on top of our original CTO. And we're competing with companies like Canva that are paying like 250, 300 grand a year for what used to be a mid-level dev that is now considered a senior dev because that's what they call themselves. Plus a sign-on bonus. Plus they get to work in an office with 4 full-time chefs. They get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Hard for me to compete with that, right? Like that gets expensive. We're in Manly. There's a beach. I'll get you free coffee, but that's about it, right? Like it's a cool culture. But ultimately, money speaks sometimes. Hey, so I do have to give away some equity in that process, or some other commercial deals whereby they feel like they're part of the business. And I kind of want people that prefer that anyway. Like, I want my sales guy, I want my marketing guy, I want them to all feel like when this business is sold, I'm going to pay off my house, or that I'm working to, I believe in this, it's part of me. Because otherwise, they just come and go, like you said. So for me, it's all about giving away a bit of the business to them.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the long game with the business. It's the same with talent, right? People work out really quickly if you're going to treat them like commodities or not. But if you start grooming the people that you want to hire in 2 years today and start searching for them today, and they say, well, I'm happy now, David. Yeah, okay. And then every 6 months you have still happy? Because my business has doubled in growth. My staff are doing this. Play the long game. Eventually they'll be like, you know what? I'm joining you. Treat them like commodities, get them in fast, they'll leave just as fast, right? And I mean, we tend to turn our heads away from the science of money when it comes to sort of human psychology. People are motivated by money only when they've got time to think about it. Great employees don't tend to think much about the money. They're in the flow, they're loving it, they're working, they're getting the free coffee, they're walking shoes off out at Manly, right? Give me a shit job, make me do shit work, and I will sit there for 8 hours going, you don't pay me enough money. Give me a brilliant job, I'm not thinking about that, right? So play the long game on the talent as well.
Mergers and acquisitions, the real sometimes tussle between the buyers and the sellers, the valuation of the company. So how do you get the buyers and sellers to agree to a particular valuation which is fair for both?
Yeah, so the process leads us to a point. So the simple answer is the process of bringing buyers and sellers together and getting to an agreed price it's not just about the dollar value, but it's also about the terms. So the process generally takes us on a journey where we start to unpack buyers' expectations of value and sellers' expectations of value. Rarely do we recommend a process that is just one buyer at a time if you're a seller. So competitive tension is critical to firstly creating optionality in the sale process, but secondly, making sure you're getting fair market value. But we start every process out with a valuation that we do internally where we look at where we believe as an advisor value resides for the business. And we're typically plus or minus 5%. We see enough transactions, we've got enough data points. You've got to remember most M&A happens in the shadows, and I don't mean in a bad way, but information that comes out around mergers and acquisitions typically is either a lot of transactions you don't get real data on. The next phase is you become aware that a deal got done, but you get lies about the value. Or the third one is the larger publicly reported where it's actually there's a reporting obligation, so you do get true information. But we spend a lot of time unpacking all of the comparables and understanding that question around where value's arrived at. And we can generally get to a pretty close view on what value is. And we have our discussion with our client around where their expectations are. you can start a process and in 4 weeks we'll have a pretty fair view as to where buyers think value is. And if there's a big divide, we know buyers only will bridge so far from their first expectation to be able to close a deal. So you can work out pretty easily and pretty quickly whether you can negotiate to an outcome that's going to be acceptable for everyone, or whether you either need to change expectations or change strategy in terms of whether a sale process at that point in time is the right thing for the client. But look, what I can say, understanding the business, good quality information, don't sugarcoat it. So the amount of times we see clients talk to us about, can't we just prop those numbers up a little bit? Buyers aren't dumb. It always comes out in a process. So be honest up front. Don't undersell it, but don't oversell it. And then sometimes it comes down to good competitive tension, some intelligent negotiation. And sometimes we'll actually sit down with the buyer and help them understand their strategy as to how they create value out of this acquisition, so to help them lift their future expectations of what the business contributes to them. And there are some transactions, one in particular we've done recently, which was an international process where we actually went out to market with a strategy for a unique set of buyers. And there were really 30 odd buyers in Europe and the US for this business. And we actually showed them how it works for them, rather than let them try and work it out, because we knew it was nothing they would have thought of before. And that actually achieved, we delivered 20% more value than our initial valuation, and we were about 35% above our vendors' expectations on that deal.
Thanks, mate. I think
We got one more question.
it better be a good one because we're running out of time.
Does it say
Mind you, no. I'm only joking. Paul's going through an amazing journey in his own business, and he's one of the most intelligent people that I know. So this would be a cracker.
Talk about the pressure, Andre. Thanks for that. I was going to ask you about haircuts. No, so Alborz, I was just curious. How did you start your relationship with Channel 7 and Channel 9? Like, was that proactive on your behalf, or they come to you? Like, how did that unfold?
It's a good question, actually. So you're right. Look, I'll give you a short answer. That's actually quite long, in a weird way. But when we had car advice in 2014-15, there was a period where we had some hostile shareholders, etc., and we actually put the business up for sale just because it was getting quite chaotic internally. And we actually ran a process with some advisors, not these guys, to sell the business. And the best valuation we got was 4 mil, if you believe it or not. And it was only when we decided that we're not going to sell it, we're going to go back and actually build something amazing and list it, that people stopped asking about it. People stopped asking whether it was on sale. And then as it got closer and closer to the listing, we started getting a lot of people asking us, hey, are you guys interested in an M&A or interested in selling out? And then it sort of came down to this weird bidding war between Channel 9, Channel 7, and Channel 10. And at one point, Channel 10 actually offered us way more money than Channel 9, but in shares. Now, I'm really glad I didn't take that one, because that company went bust quite quickly after that. But it ended up being around Channel 7 and Channel 9, and Channel 7 wasn't willing to go above what 9 was. So it was like a back and forward thing. So that's creating that tension. So they already knew who I was. So when I left and started again, it wasn't a very difficult relationship to restart. And I think they were pretty keen not to wait too late to get back in, because automotive on digital is the highest category spend online. So it's a big market, and they had no play. So it was a bit of a no-brainer for them. So if anything, I should have probably argued on the valuation a bit higher, but I didn't have any good advisors. So I haven't learned anything, actually, is the answer to your question.
Mate, it's a pleasure to connect you guys. I only charge a very small fee, just so you know. So we'll talk about that later. Really well said. Thank you, and great question, Paul. Look, we're running out of time. And I can see Lana giving me I'm going to corral you now, Andre, if you don't stop talking. Look, so when we did the prep session, and I actually recorded it via Zoom accidentally, so I think I might actually speak to our team to actually get it publicized, because or put it out in the social media, because although we've run out of time, when you do catch up with these guys afterwards, and I would strongly encourage you that you do, because what you see on stage in terms of the very relaxed persona is what you get in real life, and it was exactly the same when we did the Zoom call. In fact, it's like we've done it twice, right? The same thing, really. It's like sitting around a table with a mate having a conversation. And during the last session, something that came up that we didn't get a chance to talk about today is cognitive loading, which I learned about from Byron. So make sure you catch up with him for a drink now throughout the rest of lunch and ask him to tell you a bit more about that. Also, make sure that you get Chris to talk to you about the different types of buyers that exist and why it's important to know what the different types of buyers are, what they actually look out for, and how you can then work in your business to make sure you set up for it so that Friday Capital doesn't come along and have to rechange and rejig it at the end to get to that point anyway. And then Alborz is just a fountain of knowledge and also experience. He can tell you a lot of the things he's learned post-sale that you can take away yourself and maybe put into your own business with purpose, looking forward, rather than Alborz is now looking backwards, having to learn from those lessons, if that makes sense. Is that all right? Okay. Thank you, guys. Give him a big round of applause.